When you hear the words community, creativity, social change, what comes to mind? I've been working at the intersection of art and community for over 10 years, and still, when I hear these words, it evokes thoughts of something big, long-lasting, and potentially out of reach. But we as human beings are naturally creative. Look at the world we live in. We're surrounded by things, experiences, systems that we create. And inside of this big world exist many smaller interconnected communities. They're the groups that you exist in and around every day. It's your barista and the folks at your coffee shop. It's your neighbors. I grew up in an environment that was rich in community, a place where people were always gathering in service to something or someone all the time. And my family didn't consider themselves creative or community builders, but they were. My dad owned and operated the Clemmer store. My uncle started the area Effinger Volunteer Fire Department. These are places that served and created community. But growing up in a place where this is the norm, I didn't even see it. I wanted to be an artist. I was interested in creative expression. I would spend hours upon hours making things. And it wasn't until I went to college and then grad school that I realized that what I really love is being creative in a shared space. I love the power that art has to bring people together, to spark dialogue, and to forge friendships that wouldn't happen otherwise. So I shifted my expression to a different kind of making. Now I create experiences, and I build bridges between institutions and people, between opportunities and needs. So this passion for art and community has led me to two incredible institutions here in Houston, Project Row Houses and the Rothko Chapel. These places are different in many ways, but what they share in common is that they are both works of art created by contemporary artists. They are both nonprofit organizations that serve a broad spectrum of people, and they both sit at the intersection of art and social justice. At their core, they are places that were created to create community. And what makes these places so special, it isn't just their physical attributes. It isn't just the visionary idea that they embodied at the time they were conceived, but it's the way they get activated. It's the way they come to life. It's the way that they hold space for these amazing communities that form around them. And it's the incredibly dynamic and diverse people who are attracted to them. At these micro-community centers, I believe in these small, intimate spaces, there is the potential to create a ripple, to create impact, create social change. And this comes from small acts. This comes from being intentional about the way we move through the world and the way we interact with the people around us. So I'd like to share my experience of making community in a creative context, and I want to share the power that intention and awareness can bring to creating social change, no matter the scale. So for those of you not familiar, the Rothko Chapel was founded in 1971 as a sacred space for people of all religions or none and opened in the Montrose community. It's the work of art of artist Mark Rothko, and it was commissioned by Dominique and Jean de Menil, activists and philanthropists. When I started working there, I was tasked to create a volunteer program. And instead of simply meeting a need, in collaboration with the staff, we used this as an opportunity. We created a process that was very intentional and very formal, along with applications and essays and letters of recommendations and in-person interviews. And through this process, we weren't trying to just make sure that there was an alignment between the organization's opportunity that was being offered and the expectations of the candidates, but we were also really getting to know who these people were. We were taking in what their talents and their passions were and what they would be bringing to this space. We were thinking about what would happen when we brought them together as a group and how they would interact with each other, with the staff, with the board, with the visitors. 4 years later, what has resulted is the Rothko Chapel Guild, a community ranging from ages 18 to 83 of all different races, classes, professions, and faiths, but all united in this deep belief in the mission of the chapel, and all united in their commitment to their service there. They're the kind face that welcomes you when you come to the chapel. They're the informed guide on the plaza that interacts with you about your experience and tells you about the history. There's also been opportunities for them to shine as individuals. Deborah, who loved gardening, became our resident landscaper. Carolyn organized a series of sacred spaces tours. Barbara initiated a book club. From the beginning and still today, we've enrolled the Guild to contribute their ideas and to help to shape this experience. They serve in leadership roles. They serve as mentors. They assist in the interview process and the training of new members. When people think about the Rothko Chapel, they think about the work of Mark Rothko. They think about maybe some of the amazing people who have spoken and performed there over the years. But when I think about the Rothko Chapel now, I think about the Guild, this unique community within a community that was created out of a need, that was formed with great intention to reflect the value and the mission of this place, and who breathe life and vibrancy into it every day. So community, it reflects its own environment. Everyone is different. They reflect their own history and their vision for the future. So in contrast to the Rothko Chapel and the Guild, I want to share a very different experience about how community can look and come together and the different ripples of impact that can move out. So one of the Houston's historically African-American communities, the 3rd Ward, sits Project Row Houses. It was created by 7 artists, led by artist Rick Lowe, and inspired by Joseph Boy's concept of social sculpture, which is this idea that we as human beings have the power to shape the world around us. So for over 20 years, Project Row Houses has been transforming community using art as a catalyst through arts education, through transitional housing, through historic preservation. During the last 2 years that I was working at Project Row Houses, because it's situated in a food desert, there was an ongoing conversation about the need for fresh, affordable foods. This inspired an artist named Elia Arce to start growing crops inside of her art house. That sparked a group of artists and community residents to form the Greenhouse Collective. And together they created an aquaponic garden and they created raised garden beds. To continue this conversation and to build upon it, we curated a series called Matter of Food, where we brought together not only artists, but we brought together gardeners, nutritionists, chefs, and we invited them to explore this broad topic of food. We gave them each an artist project house, a shotgun house, as their platform, and then some resources, and then we just watched the various visual translations and activities that emerged. One artist, Tatfu Tan from Staten Island, New York, he worked with the children in the after-school program and he taught them how to make compost. Together they explored that gardens can be made out of anything and they can be made portable using basic things like shopping carts or luggage that's on wheels. Another house, Soul of Our Food, really wanted to use food and our everyday dishes as a way to celebrate our personal history and our culture. And so they had monthly cooking competitions. And there were people that came to Project Row Houses so excited with their unique dishes that we'd never seen before. And then this sparked Cafe for a Day, where once a week, one person from the area would become the featured chef. And then for the first time, Project Row Houses staff and residents and neighbors would come together weekly and enjoy a meal and get to know one another. For 4 months, Project Row Houses was alive with all things food, and there was a beautiful combination of artists working and creating alongside of chefs and gardeners creating alongside of neighbors. After the food series ended, this conversation continued. The Cafe Doshi House opened, and now there's a place where the neighborhood can gather and they can enjoy breakfast, lunch, and dinner and continue these conversations. Project Row Houses provided a space to New Water Food Co-op, and now the neighborhood does have a place where they can enjoy organic fruits and vegetables at affordable prices. So this is a different example of how community can come together, how it could exist only in a moment in time, but yet the conversation can continue and grow bigger. And while it was also created out of a need, it was initiated from the community and then became a collaboration with the organization, still really tapping into the talents of the various community residents and of the opportunities that existed. So I found my passion. It's creatively building community to affect social change. What's yours? What lights you up? This is where you start. So when you leave here today, there are two things you can do. One, develop awareness. Just start to notice what the various communities are that you exist in and around every day. Notice where there's a need for community that's not currently being met. And pay attention to opportunities where you can either build upon or create a new community. Two, be intentional. What would it look like if you just imagined one community that you're part of right now, and if you creatively engaged with it and stretched yourself just a little bit and made connections between opportunities and needs that are around you? We are all creative. We're all participants in and creators of community, and we have the power to shape the world for the better collectively. The world needs you to share your ripples of good that can go long and far. Thank you.